Let's take the working file employees v2 to look at how we can use our clever little CountIF, SumIF and AverageIF functions to work on more than one range and criteria at the same time. I've set up three little tables here, CountIFs. Now if the CountIF does what it says on the tin, I should be able to count if the person is operations and married. So I'm checking two criteria columns at the same time. If they match, then we count. So we start off with our function, which is not CountIF, but CountIFs. Notice there in the plural, open brackets. My criteria range is going to be the department, comma. My criteria for the department column is the first department, comma. My criteria range 2 is the marital status, comma. My criteria 2 is the MAR. Now you'll notice that you can actually go on and on. You could have a third criteria, fourth criteria, a fifth criteria. But we're going to stick with the 2, close brackets, return, and there are 13 people, or 13 records in my data, that have both operations in the department column and MAR, married, in the marital status column. Now what I can't just do yet is replicate this formula. I need to do a little bit of absoluting. Now what I want to be able to do when I drag this down is for the top row not to change. So W3 to have the 3 fixed. So I put a dollar in front of the 3, but not the W. And the V4 needs to stay in the column. That's $V, but the 4 needs to be able to change. What that then allows me to do, just fix part of each of the references, is replicate downwards, and that works fine. And then take all of those formulas and replicate them to the right, and they don't work fine. Let's have a look at the option here, CountIF SS. Notice how it's actually checking a different column. Let's go back here. What I therefore need to do is dollar my column references as well. So they're going to be absolute because it's always going to be those columns. Let's take that formula down and then across. This time the numbers look more believable. 2 people are divorced in the sales department. 1 is divorced in the clerical. 10 are single and in the clerical. So by getting the correct absolute references there, so it's fully absolute for the columns so they don't move. Only the column reference is absolute on the departments. Only the row reference is absolute on the marital status, and that is our CountIFs. Criteria range, criteria, criteria range, criteria. And it would follow on if you went to the third or a fourth or a fifth. The SumIFs works in a pretty similar way, but not fully the same way, because SumIFs has the ability to add a different range than the one the criteria is in. So my sum range here is actually the salary column, 00. But then my criteria is criteria range 1 is the departments, with the criteria being selected from the department names on the left. Criteria range 2 is the marital statuses, comma, with the criteria being selected from above. And again, just like the CountIFs, you could have a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth set of criteria and criteria ranges. Now, before I replicate, I do need to dollar up this slot. So the columns are fully fixed, so they get a double set of dollars using the F4 keyboard shortcut. There's 3 columns, the 2 criteria columns and the 1 sum column. Now they can't change, but the operations reference, so B11 here, does need to move as we go downwards, but I don't want it to move as we go left to right. So I need to fix the column, $V, and then with the actual marital status, I need to fix the row, because I do want it to move left and right when I copy the formula, but not when I copy downwards. So return, let's just format that, replicate down to clerical, replicate all of them across to div. So there's no single people, and there isn't in our count in the accounts, and no divorced people in the accounts. Therefore, the SumIFs of those 2 combination marital status and departments is 0. Having seen these in action, AverageIFs should be easiest thing going. AverageIFs, because I want to have multiple ranges. First range is the one that we're going to work out the average on. Well, that's the salary, comma. Criteria is the department, comma. The actual criteria is here on the left, comma. The range of criteria is marital status, comma. The actual criteria is MAR. Let's do our dollaring up. We'll need this to stay on row 17, so we dollar the row, and here we dollar the column. Format as money, replicate down, replicate across. That looks like something is amiss. Fixed up the columns. How did we forget that? So the columns need to be fully absolute. So that's F4 to fully dollar up, F4 to fully dollar up, and F4 to fully dollar up, thus allowing me to replicate downwards and then, more importantly, across. Now there are two div O's. That's because there's nobody in these departments, so dividing by nothing is going to produce a div O. We will see later, in fact we already have seen really, how to negate a div O error message by putting an if that checks to see if there is an error message. So that's CountIFs, SumIFs, AverageIFs, allowing you to work the clever CountIF, SumIf and AverageIF functions on multiple criteria ranges.